our other Facebook groups up in here before it's officially time to go. We'll try to keep it a crisp 45 today. And I got to get the trash out and everything. So good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is 6:31 a.m. where I'm at 7:30, probably where most of you are listening from in Mountain Time. And what is it, 9:30 out there in Atlanta? Scott, how you doing? What's new?
I'm doing good, and the trash has already come here this morning.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like we say, Mark Schrader. I get his weather, a couple days later. You get my day a couple hours later.
Yeah. Yep. So I typically do it right after the show's over, and I don't want to miss it. They're like, hey, have it up the day before, but I've kind of timed it where they don't come until 10 o'clock or something. So I got a little bit of time to get it all together and get as much of that nastiness in here. But Spock talking about garbage. Welcome in, folks. It's Broncos for breakfast. I'm Nick Kendall, joined by Scott Kennedy. He is out there on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast, and we're here to talk a little Broncos football with you guys today. And if you haven't joined us before, make sure you stick around and subscribe, like, share on the YouTube side of things. Click the thumbs up and leave a comment. It's your guys' show as much as it's our show. Speaking of your guys' show, Donald Willison Jr. coming in saying good morning, Nick Scott and Broncos country. Good to see you. And Jeremy Sean asking the question about the title of the show. We're going to talk a little bit of the Broncos defense and Kareem Jackson. He says, does a football team ever complete? No, not really, but you can look at a team and be like, okay, the rest of the moves that they are going to make are likely going to be guys who are maybe not on the final 53 or borderline kind of guys. So no, football rosters are never complete, but you kind of have a majority of the pieces and the identity there at some point during the season. So that's what we're going to talk about here. Is this Kareem Jackson one the final piece to the defense, or are there still some areas that the Broncos could look to add some potentially big impact players still to the defensive side of the ball? So we will get into that. Kevin Gray, good morning, Broncos country, Nick and Scott, and a big mile high salute to the faithful of Denver Broncos for life, MHH for life. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well, Kevin. We always appreciate you. We got Chase coming in here. Chase says he's looking old or something there. I don't know what's going on with the bald head emojis. I think that's what it is. Hopefully that's not a shot at it.
I think that is commentary on Kareem Jackson signing.
That makes sense to me. Yeah, he's definitely an old man, but we'll get into that. Philip Hagginson coming in here. Philip, I believe, probably across the pond. That looks like a very Danish name. So good morning to you, Philip. Hope you're doing well. We got our guy, Jesse Hilborn, coming in saying good morning. Good to see you, Jesse. Hope you're doing well. Isaiah Stacks. Isaiah
You've seen
Stacks.
Isaiah before. Yeah,
Okay.
Isaiah, welcome back.
Stacks seems familiar. So good morning to you, Isaiah. Hope you're doing well. He says good morning, Broncos country. Definitely no Lance Johnson. He always kicks it off with the top of the morning, fellas, to you. I don't know if Lance is Irish, but he's leaning into the Irish top of the morning there. Miguel Santasteven. Definitely no Miguel. Good morning, fellas. Zach Powers also. Always appreciate
Miguel,
Zach.
real quick, Miguel, we haven't seen you for a couple days. Make sure if you haven't, milehighhuddle@gmail. You won the jersey for Facebook. Not sure if you knew that. So congratulations. And hit up Mile High Huddle and Gmail and make sure they have your information.
Awesome. Well, congrats, Miguel. That's awesome. You can send it my way. I'd love a Justin Simmons color rush one if you're handing them out. No, appreciate you, Miguel. Congrats to you. And you guys can get in here as well. We got Zach Powers saying morning. Zach always has good insights and questions on the show. So we appreciate you, Zach. Hope you're doing well. And with that, he says, I really like Kareem Jackson, but for his own sake and the way he plays, I wish he would retire before his brain is mush. I don't recall off the top of my head. Maybe that's early brain mush on my end, but I don't recall him having any concussions or head injuries during his time in Denver. That doesn't mean that's not the case, but I can't think of any incidences where he's missed time due to a head injury.
Well, missing time and getting them are two different things, and I have a hard time believing a defensive back is going to go as long as he has without suffering a concussion or two or three through the course of his career. And those things, they stack up there. It's like an exponential curve.
Yeah.
The second one's twice as bad, and the third one's even worse. But yeah, and we can get into this a little bit as far as, as we think. We can finish saying hello, and then we can talk about the signing itself and what we think of it.
Yeah. We got Greg Smith. Good morning to you, Greg. Gyla Maple's always coming in saying good morning. Beautiful day in New Mexico. It's beautiful out here in Seattle, so hopefully that's good. I'm seeing 90 degrees maybe next Sunday and Monday, which would be miserable, but summer's coming. Robbie Red, good morning, everyone. How's everyone's morning doing? Coffee is starting to kick in. Hopefully it's, coursing through my veins a little bit. Jason O'Neill saying good morning, Nick. Good morning, Scott. Good morning, Broncos country. Bringing Kareem Jackson back also means brings back a veterans present. Like Scott said, there are starters yet to be signed. Scott, do you remember saying there are starters yet to be signed for this defense?
I don't. I mean, there's going to be plenty of guys coming in. You got to fill out a 90-man roster. So there's going to be a lot of bodies coming in and out. But, you know, I can't think of a surefire one. I'd still like to see a better center come in. But as far as, you know, the title, is it complete? I don't know. I don't feel like there's more starters to come in. I don't remember saying that. Doesn't mean I didn't.
Yeah.
But I usually would remember that. Usually, you know, I repeat myself enough, you know, that the old saying is if you speak the truth, you never have to remember what you say. Well, I repeat the things over and over again because I don't remember what I said, but I'm usually pretty consistent. I just don't remember there's a lot of flexibility as far as salary cap and availability as far as players where you're going to be able to go out and get starting level players. It's like, oh yeah, for sure. You're just waiting to see who you're going to plug in at center because there's 5 guys out there and you're just kind of letting it play out. I don't see that right now.
Yeah, man. Apologize, Philip Hagginson. I always just read it in the morning show. We have a lot of European people here, and Hagginson looks like a Danish name of some sort. The double A there.
It's West Dane.
Yeah, the Montana origin. Yeah. Well, good morning to you out there in beautiful Montana. We got our guy in the Carolinas coming in, Kareem Gomez. Good to see you. Keith Brugman, wake up. It's time for Broncos for breakfast. Good to see you. And we got Jetty Splash coming in, breaking the ice with the $5 super, saying, Scott, I think you mentioned earlier linemen are cheaper and it should be easier to pick up a center later. Do you still see that happening?
I have said that previously. Centers are cheap, relatively speaking. In draft picks, you didn't get one. You got one late. You didn't get one in the 3rd, but you could have. You probably could have moved up, and instead of taking Mims, you probably could have gotten one of the top 2 or 3 centers. And I've said that about guards too. So I'm sure you could have gotten a guard. And financially speaking, instead of $150 million into Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey, you could have probably upgraded the center position instead as well, and maybe not spent quite as much. You have signed a journeyman type career backup free agent in Kyle Fuller, who has, I think, 4 starts to his career, and a 7th round draft pick whose athletic profile is scary bad. So right now, Lloyd Cushenberry is your starter, y'all. Can you go out and get somebody else? We'll see who gets cut. Washington cut their center, but he's been battling injuries. I kind of made a joke about it on Twitter when it was announced. I quote tweeted his I don't even remember the guy's name as the problem. It's like, hey Nick, this is George Payton, Denver Broncos. You know, they should be on the phone pretty quick about would you be interested? But he's missed a ton of games too. So you're getting to the point where there's the veterans that are out there that haven't signed, that aren't in any rush. You know, I've been in the league 7 years. I don't feel like going through another training camp. I'll wait until August and sign. Dalton Reisner might be in that group at this point. But you get a guy like Yannick Ngakoue. He's a good football player. And he's got a role in this league. He will be playing next year, but he might not sign until August. There's guys like there, the second-tier free agents that have made some money in this league that didn't get the big contract, but they will sign. And then there will be more cap casualties. You will see more guys get cut. So are you done at center specifically? Maybe not, but right now it looks like Lloyd Cushenberry is your starter.
Yeah. Without a doubt, we got Bernardo coming in here. Garcia, good morning to you. Leroy talking about everything going on in Texas. Yeah, Leroy, thinking about everybody out there in Texas. Just heart goes out to all those people and everybody dealing with that utter chaos and crap. So, yeah, hopefully you and your family can pick on up here and things a little bit better here. My heart goes out to the victims as well. Michael Ronquillo coming in. Congratulations, Miguel, on winning the Broncos jersey giveaway. Michael, is that a hint of jealousy that I hear? No, Michael,
no, of course
just
not.
Teasing. Of course not. I'm just got to tease him. Appreciate you, Michael. Hope you're doing well. He also says, oh, cool. Thanks, guys. Yep, for sure. Miguel comes in and says that. Jamal Killing's in the house. Good morning, Broncos country. We got Trevon coming saying, mile higher, nothing. Love that. Hope you're doing well. Michael also did say good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Good to see you, Michael. And we got Nick coming in saying the Broncos still need a running back and an edge rusher. So you mentioned center, Scott, as well for a starter. We're going to talk on the defensive side because I think it's a little bit more of an interesting conversation. And he mentions edge rusher here. We'll get into that. But running back, I would be pretty shocked if the Broncos didn't bring in another running back just yet. There's still a lot of names out there. They're going to be able to find somebody who can come in and take some snaps right now. Maybe I'm a hater. I feel like I've started to get that reputation based on some of the comments on here. But do I love going into the offseason with Tony Jones Jr., Damari Crockett, Tyler Beatty, Tyreek McAllister, Jaleel McLaughlin as your running backs behind your one healthy starter? No, I do not. That is not enough competency, known quantity out there for a team that is looking to run the football a lot this season. So running back for sure is way up there for me, and probably the one that is the easiest to find somebody who can come in and take carries or at least be a part of the offense.
Yeah, there's when you've got a good one, when you've got an elite one, you can tell, but you can get good. Good's pretty easy to come. Average is good. There's, like we said, Latavius Murray ended up, PFF had him graded like top 10 last year. You pulled him off a practice squad, and he greatly improved the room last year when he showed up. Will it always be that easy?
No.
Maybe not. But if you build the system, we talk about system quarterbacks, but for me, Nick, that's more about college. He was a system guy, threw for a lot of yardage, but doesn't have great tools. That happens more in college. But in the NFL, you can absolutely have system running backs. Nobody knows that better than the Denver Broncos, who were churning out 1,500 yards rushers. Didn't matter who you put in. If you get the system in place with the right scheme and the right offensive line, which you feel pretty good about what you've done to this point with Sean Payton, with the money you poured into the OL to fix some deficiencies, you feel like the scheme is in there that it should be okay to plug and play a running back where you don't need to use premium resources, precious resources on a running back.
Yeah, they just need to find somebody to come in and take, 10 carries a game that can give you a bridge to Javonte Williams if he plays at all this season. But they can find that guy. I truly do believe that. And guess what? If for some reason Javonte Williams is not healthy going forward, is never the same again, you're in a position where you can bring in somebody next season as well. But you got to find somebody to kind of trudge you along this year. Robbie Red comes in and said, Russ was the most sacked quarterback last season. How much is on Russ for keeping the ball too long? I mean, I think a good bit is on Russ for keeping the ball too long. The offensive line wasn't very good. I don't think the scheme was very good. There's plenty of blame to go around, but for me, Russell Wilson probably takes 35 to 40% of the blame for trying to do too much.
If you go back to a low college level, and Nick, you've heard me say this before, and if you get a 5-step drop and a guy throws on when his foot hits the ground on the back and hits his first read, it's a completion 95% of the time at any level. You never saw that with the Denver Broncos. How much is it on Russ? The lack of cohesion with the offense, the understanding, the comfort level just did not exist. There was never 1, 2, 3, 3-step drop and fire. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First read fire. I'm saying never. I don't remember it. I'm sure it happened.
It's rare.
But you see that at the college level. It's if a quarterback drops back, plants his foot, and throws, it's a completion. Just count it. You didn't see that. You didn't see that level of easy pitch and catch in the Denver Broncos offense last year.
No.
I think you'll see more of it this year. And that leads to those sacks. So how much of it is to Russ holding on the ball too long? A lot of it. Why is he holding on to the ball too long? Those are the questions that Sean Payton is going to get paid 8 figures to figure out and make it, though. So he's getting rid of the ball quicker. So he trusts his reads. So the receivers are there where they're supposed to be. So Russ is throwing the ball where it's supposed to go if it's open on a first read. So a lot of it was him holding the ball too long. But my question, Robbie, then becomes, and I don't have an answer for it, Sean Payton needs to. Why was he holding on to the ball too long? And can that be fixed?
Yeah. Big question. That's last season. That's a stat that I like to quote as well on here. There's a advanced stat that converts the rate of pressures a quarterback sees to sacks. So a quarterback's ability to navigate pressure, to not turn pressures into a negative play. And Russell Wilson was the single worst quarterback in the NFL in terms of his pressure rates turning into sacks. So that's
you could see it. He doesn't trust a hot receiver. He doesn't trust somebody to be out there. When the pressure came in, the first thing he looked to do was duck his head and escape instead of throw and trust the offense to bail him out of those pressures. He was ducking his head and spinning.
Yep.
And those are going to lead to sacks.
And he also doesn't scoot like he used to. I saw it week 1. People can blame the hamstring injury. That hurt as well. But like even week 1, I'm watching the game and I'm like, these 300-pound defensive linemen are closing on him. I do not remember Russell Wilson. He used to be somebody who, could run with linebackers. Now I'm seeing like big guys like closing space on him quick. And I'm like,
those guys are getting faster too.
that's true.
You
But
can stay the same and those guys are getting faster. But I agree with you. He's going to have to learn to trust those reads and stuff and for those reads to be there. You hear the big tight end, Nick, and you say, I always say I love the big wide receivers. Why? Because they're always open. I need that safety blanket. Who's it going to be? I know when I'm in trouble, Greg Dulcich is going to be staring me in the face, waving his hands to avoid those sacks. And instead of a -5, you get a +5. Well, 10 yards that's a long ways in football.
And then it just comes back to we need to talk a little bit about Kareem Jackson as defense, but Russell Wilson's struggle in the quick pass game. You talk about that, 3-step, 5-step drop, and we saw that last season, but he'd do that. And there's like a play, I think Cortland Sutton was in the slot to the left, and he hits it like 3 yards in front of Cortland Sutton on an easy play where all you have to do is hit him in the gut and he just falls backward for a first down. Why didn't Cortland Sutton make that? It was a unspectacular ask for a play that he would have had to make a spectacular play to make. The easy stuff was not easy. Didn't see over the middle of the field, wasn't consistent with his placement, wasn't consistent with his timing. I mean, it was bad last year. And these things about him, like, trying to be a chaos merchant, escaping the pocket, the sacks, can he actually become that quarterback that's a system quarterback, so to speak, playing within the system? Because we did not see that last year. And that's the biggest question this year, obviously, with him and Sean Payton.
How about the loss of the Colts, trying to force it when you got a quick slant that's wide open? That's a 3-step fire. Those are the kind of things that we will see. Again, the trust, the comfort, all of those things should be better, not only in his second year just with the Broncos and with everybody else, but with the team. Miguel coming in with some big stars. He says, I think K-Jack is a good veteran in case Stearns can't stay healthy. And it might not even be can't stay healthy. How about can't get healthy? Caden Stearns, we've said this before, Nick. There's a lot of trust being put on a guy that's only got about 5 starts in his career. He's played less snaps on defense for the Denver Broncos than Damari Mathis. Yet we're just going ahead and writing him in as a starter. Why? That's a scary position. Now, for me, the thought on Kareem Jackson is, okay, and the thing I like most about Kareem Jackson is what I saw from him 2 years ago. Under Fangio, when I saw the rest of the team quit, just flat out quit. The guy that never did was Kareem Jackson. I don't mind having that as a guy on my team who is always going to war. I can always count on. They talk about trust a lot with players. I trust Kareem Jackson to always give me everything he's got. The problem is what he's got right now isn't really good enough. When you're in the offseason, you're like, I want to improve. I want to get better. You didn't get better yesterday. You didn't improve. You're like, we wanted more. At least with the young guys, I've got the hope. I've got the hope that somebody's going to come in and do it. With Kareem Jackson, you know what you've got, and it didn't get better than it was last year, and that's disappointing. That's a little disappointing.
Yeah, and thanks, Miguel, for the comment here. I think that I agree with Miguel's comment about Kareem Jackson being an emergency player for this. I think that it's not a bad route to go. He's a veteran guy. The team knows him. The team respects him. Justin Simmons really likes him back there. And ideally, he's somebody is he willing to play special teams at this point? Because ideally, he is the 3rd or 4th safety, and he's going to play a role like that. And if he will not play special teams, then he's somebody who you keep just in case. Let's say there's an injury in preseason or whatnot, or if connective tissue on that roster. But if there's an injury for Stearns or Skinner's not ready or anything like that, then you can turn to Kareem Jackson, and it just gives you a much higher floor at that spot. But ideally, again, if he's not going to be somebody who's going to come in and be a 3rd or 4th safety and do special teams because Stearns beat him out, then he's probably somebody who doesn't make the roster in that scenario. So we'll see what happens with him.
Do you remember him being asked that question last year in camp?
I do remember, and it was.
Do you remember his answer?
Yeah, it was. He was offended.
He was shocked.
Greatly. Yes.
Why are you coming in? You planning on being the starter? Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I be the starter? That told me a lot about the things we don't see in practice. Kareem's like, yeah, I'm better than the guys we've got. He knew it. Again, I'm not putting all my eggs into the Caden Stearns. I just wish I'd gotten something a little fresher than Kareem Jackson. But Keith asks, he says, what does the K-Jack signing say about the safeties on the roster? Does this play into a blow-up next year? Yeah, it's a one-year deal, familiarity. And the leadership thing to me is starting to bother me just a little bit. Justin Simmons is going to be 30. He's going to be 30 years old. He's a team captain.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's not a leader, who is? That should be your leader. We keep talking about Justin Simmons like he's one of the young guys. It's his time to shine. He'll be 30 this year. He's on the back end, y'all. Again, what I do like though is when you say the leadership, it's you can show some guys how to be pros. And how did I hang around this league? By taking care of my body, by listening, by reading, doing all the little things. You can help teach some guys how to be pros and lead by example. But I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of Kareem Jackson on the field next year, Nick.
My understanding is this staff was pretty happy with or excited about Caden Stearns' ability, and Vance Joseph has, over the last few seasons, implemented a lot of different 3 safety looks. So there's still going to be snaps available for whoever that third safety is. But I do think ideally you're seeing Stearns be that first safety across from Justin Simmons, just more athletic, definitely more ball production at this point.
There's
but it could
big
easily
injuries concerns there right now, though.
But
if he was a draft pick, I mean, he's not quite a rookie, but he's not far off it. And he's a young player, inexperienced with injury concerns. Red flag, red flag, red flag.
Yeah. Which is why, again, I'm not against this Kareem Jackson signing because it raises the floor of the room. Is he going to be a great player for you? No. We could see it last season, the athleticism, the ability to close space. I mean, it was waning last year, and it's not going to be probably any better this season. But he is somebody who kind of knows what they want to do in the back end. There's a lot of unspoken communication on those guys in the back end with the type of zone coverages that they're playing, and having Jackson back there again raises the floor of the room. So I don't think it's the worst move in the world. Would it be great if the Broncos had signed somebody to the same contract at this point that was 5 years younger that we could believe in some upside? Yes. Does that guy exist? Probably not at this point in the offseason. So I don't think it's not a big move by any means. I think it's just a move that you hedge your bets a little bit in that safety room. And ideally, again, if Skinner and Locke and De'Aaron Turner-Yell and Caden Stearns all stand out and it's like, oh my gosh, well, all these guys took huge steps this year. That'd be great. But Kareem Jackson, he knows Christian Parker. He knows what they want to do. He was not here with Vance Joseph, so it's not that totally he does not predate or date back to when Vance Joseph was the head coach here. But I think it's a fine signing overall. It's inexpensive, and Broncos, ideally, they could move on from him if they don't need him. But again, if you do have to have him, you'll be happy to have at least a veteran option back there that's not 5th round pick De'Aaron Turner-Yell, who only played special team snaps last year. And now we're in deep trouble.
Yeah. And thank you, Miguel. Wanted to make sure we said that. And Ben Bunt's coming in. He says another unspoken option might be to bring back Reisner. Doubtful due to the Russ confrontation. That was actually Rippin.
But Russ was involved because he didn't help him up, right?
Yeah, but Russ wasn't involved in the confrontation. It was somebody else, So that was Rippin was mad because of Russ, but Russ was never mad unless he said, "You go say something," which would be really chicken spittle. But I don't think that happening.
I don't think that, no.
Or someone similar put Miners at center. He's probably our best center on the roster. They tried Miners there at center pretty quickly and said no, and they moved him to guard really quick as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
But he was brought in to provide competition for Cushenberry when he was a rookie. But that's a big jump from where he was playing. Was it he wasn't UW? Where was he?
I think he was Whitewater.
Okay. That's a big jump in competition. And then I worry about 2 positions, but you weaken 2 positions. If you're not as good, even if you're maybe a little better at center, you're still probably not great. Now you got weaker at right guard. You got weaker at guard. And bring in Reisner? No, man. No. But I said that yesterday, Ben. I really did. I typed it in when they said, Kareem Jackson's like, well, who's next? Reisner? Reisner at 2.5, 3 million. That's the money I've said all along for him. Why not?
I have some other former players that interest me more, but first let's get to our guy David Carmelo's comment saying, "Would you prefer Jimmy G or Russell Wilson?" Not sure I prefer either. Well, you didn't ask us, didn't give us a neither option here. Then you take that one, David. What's this? But without considering what you had to give up and the contract, I would take Russell Wilson. But if we are including the contracts of both of these guys, I
No
would probably
contract.
take.
You got a game to win.
Well, then it's Russell Wilson.
Okay. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I like Jimmy G. I do.
I'm going to be curious to see what he looks like without the womb that he played in San Francisco. That was as quarterback friendly. Talk about a system quarterback, as quarterback friendly as any in the league. So I mean, God, they had Brock Purdy come in there and look like a all pro guy as Mr. Irrelevant. I'm just curious what it looks like out there. I think Jimmy G's fine, but if it was one game, I'd rather have Wilson. But in the context of the contracts of both of these guys, it's not even close.
No, this is the player. This is talking about, who would help me win more games. That's how I interpret David's question.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, right now, in the context of contract and everything, you would have rather had an undrafted free agent starting last year and have your draft picks back and the contract cleared. You would have been better off doing nothing. We could have had Drew Lock for this. Well, yeah, you could have had anybody. This wasn't about Drew Lock. This was about the bad deal that has been Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson is playing well, then you don't mind what you gave up. But right now, I think it's going to be hard pressed for this deal to ever switch back to level. I think you're going to need 5 years of, 3 of them. I won't even say Pro Bowl because the AFC is so deep at quarterback.
Yeah.
But, where you're going 30 to 10 touchdown passes to interceptions with 4,500 yards, you're going to need a few years of that to even think that you're coming up even. This is so far, you're so far in the red on this trade. It's going to be hard to dig out. That right now you're just hoping, we're just talking about, can you get competency?
Yeah. Good. Yeah, like Rosenthal was saying, it could be a Herschel Walker level of trade. Right now it doesn't look great, and we'll see what Sean Payton can do, but Sean Payton doesn't seem to be buddying up any chance he's given. And we got Troy Bauer coming in here with the cute golden retriever eyes there. Good to see you, Troy. $4.99 saying, I'm okay with the Kareem Jackson signing, only because I do believe Payton will play the best players. Otherwise, time for young guys. Thank you both for the great show. Well, thank you, Troy, for coming in and supporting us. That really does help us. Every single bit helps. It keeps the lights on, helps Nick improve his computer, his camera, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a better product for you guys in the end as well. What you invest in us, we invest back into the show.
And Troy, what if Kareem Jackson is the best player? That's the upsetting part. That's the part that makes you just kind of let out a big, we call it the sigh jar. Every time we were talking about the Broncos last year, anytime either one of us went, we had to put $1 in the sigh jar. And that's just to me what this feels like. It's just like, really, he's back. Okay. He's okay. Meh. But you're hoping for more. You're hoping for some potential. At worst, you're hoping for some potential.
Yeah.
You're not getting potential here. You got what you got, which is
And you paid for probably, 1 year contract at this point. Again, I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. Jeremy says it's a break glass in case of emergency situation there. You have 3 young safeties on the roster right now. I guess PJ Locke isn't that young anymore either, but you have options there. It's the opportunity is there for somebody else to take it, but I do feel pretty good about the cheap 1 year option for Kareem Jackson, just to a known quantity to have the floor there for that position. Because if you're playing a rookie who is out of position and doesn't know what they're doing, it can ruin the entire structure of the defense back there. So it's just a floor raising position. Your upside with him is negligible, if at all, but it means that I don't think your defense, specifically in the secondary, is going to completely fall off if something happens there, if young players don't take steps forward, and if, God forbid, you suffer an injury back there to one of your better players, in my opinion.
Jeff comments on the headline, I would say this defense is not complete as the trends are still questionable until we have someone show up along PS3 where light at DB and the edges are still a question mark. That's not the interpretation I get. Your football teams never, ever complete. You're always doing things. The headline, Jeff, is more along the lines of, is this who we're going to run out there week one?
Mm-hmm.
Can we write in the starting 11 or, the next 6 best players where we've got some camp competition and one of them may emerge? Probably. Again, so Jeff, where is a new starter coming into the defense? That's the question. Do we have our 11 and some of the key backups?
Yep.
Probably at this point.
Yeah, it's probably without a doubt. We got Albert Knoppers all saying good morning, y'all. But I'm looking at the roster right now, and I see a lot of comments about edge as well from people. And I am as edge oriented as anybody out there. I love pass rushers. It's my favorite spot. It's what I start with every single draft off season, and it's where my eyes just stay. Even when the Broncos are on offense, I'm probably watching the other team's defensive line because just where that's where my eyeballs are drawn to. But looking at the Broncos edge room right now, there's a lot of question marks, but there are so many question marks that because of the volume of players that they have, I think it's edge is much more of a next season conversation. The Broncos have their first round pick back. They could be moving on from a lot of these guys as well. I think the bodies that you have on edge right now are probably the guys you're going to roll with next year. I mean, just can you trust them? Are they going to be good? We don't know, but there's such an assortment of guys that I don't know who you could bring in that's going to make that much of a difference. I mean, we go down the list: Baron Browning, obviously, Nick Bonito, Jake Martin, Randy Gregory, Jonathan Cooper. I mean, you still got Aaron Patrick. They love for special teams. Christopher Allen.
Yep.
That's 7, 8 names right there. Drew Sanders as well. That's an interesting player. But I think that the Broncos at edge, they are looking for an alpha out there. Somebody I think that could be like a long-term franchise building block kind of guy. But that's much more of a long-term perspective, in my opinion, with this roster than what they have right now. I think what they have right now is what they're going to roll out there next season. And you hope to God your top 2 guys can stay healthy, in Gregory and Browning, because they are great athletic specimens. But I don't know if you can trust either their health. But just by the numbers, I don't know how much you're going to add there.
There's a little bit of a delay when it comes into our screenshot. Actually, and what's interesting is on Facebook, it actually shows up in our chat on StreamYard before it actually shows up on Facebook. But with YouTube, there's a little bit of a delay. Just wanted to say, Jeremy, who wrote Drew Sanders, I did not rip you off. We were just thinking the same thing. Yeah. 6'4", 240 pounds or so. With the way he runs, I'd move him all over the place. What are you playing? You're playing Joker or Wildcat or Spur or whatever they use. They want to use for that that guy that has the ability to. I got 10, and you're my designated pass rusher on third downs. You line up where you think you've got the best advantage, and I'll tell you, I think it's over left guard. But if you feel good on the right side because you've got to read on the left tackle, then do it. Diamond Rattler is up late or early, I'm not sure. She says today's a Saturday, so enjoy the weekend, Diamond. Mm-hmm. Enjoy the weekend. Isaiah asks, he says, what do you think about Thomas Incombe? I liked him as a late round pick. I thought he has some potential, good size, had some nice reps at the Senior Bowl. I think that you got him as an undrafted free agent was a steal. And maybe you can stash him on the practice squad. It was Central Michigan guy, so maybe he's got some ability to improve. He hasn't really hit that arc yet, but I thought he was a really good type of player to bring in. We took him in mocks several times, 6th, 7th round. So I think he was a nice pickup, Isaiah, as a UDFA.
Yeah, he's one that I like a lot. So again, coming back to edge, I think they're fine there. As far as the short-term discussion now, long-term, if you move on from Randy Gregory, he's injured again, or Baron Browning has an injury-riddled season or doesn't take that step forward, you're probably looking edge rusher round 1. I mean, just for the value of the position, how impactful it is. Edge is definitely going to be up there for the Broncos next season, almost regardless of what happens this year. It's probably going to be a conversation. Browning only have 1 year left of contract control. We'll see what happens with Bonito, but he looks very much like a rotational guy. It sounded like the Broncos were at least listening to what was out there for him before the draft in terms of trade compensation back. So don't know if they're in love with him, but I think edge is okay for 1 season. I think linebacker is also the off-ball, stack, middle, whatever you want to call it, is also fine for 1 season. I mean, Josie Jewell, Alex Singleton, Drew Sanders, and Jonas Griffith, and Justin Strnad, I think that's okay. But That's one that I think is probably okay as well. We talked about safety, cornerback. For me, looking at this roster right now, there's a big gaping hole on here. We've talked about it a lot, but I have our lads up right now for the Broncos starters, and they have penciled in as a starter right now at right defensive end, Jonathan Harris. Broncos defensive lineman in that 3-4 front. Jonathan Harris playing opposite of Zach Allen, who's a little bit more of a tweener body type. This, to me, screams that this team could use a 3 technique 4-eye that could do a lot of different stuff up front that could take some pressure off of DJ Jones and rotate this. Now, could this be an Owazirike part for the Broncos? Possibly. But God, yeah, gaping holes.
Sword swallowing Niners fan says we're definitely cuter, and I swear this isn't me with a burner typing this stuff in the back chat. This is the kind of stuff I put in the background just to make the guys kind of laugh. But thanks. Try and keep it PG here, though, when we're in the chat. I don't want to have to bounce you this early.
Yeah, no, it's no fun.
But yeah, Jonathan Harris. Isn't Jonathan Harris a player I said I don't ever want to see on the field?
Number
last
92
year during the preseason when he was getting just boat raced by, was it the Bills?
Yep. Getting driven down the field. It was like Jonathan O'Hare in the blind side kind of thing. And he's listed as a starter right now. I mean, this to me, talking about the defense, and this is when I said, is the Broncos defense done? Could they bring anybody back? To me, this is a blinking light. Insert Shelby Harris here. This is one that, I mean, he was moved on from the Seahawks, obviously didn't play great out there in Seattle. He's not a, plus player at any points, but he's competent. And if you can get another body with some versatility that can take some snaps there, be somebody with like the body type, the mass, the length to take some pressure off here and kick everybody else down one spot here, I think that would be huge. So Jonathan Harris, for me, that's the one that looking at this defense, it's like, we got to do something there.
But if you're in a 3-4, I'm not putting Jonathan Harris there. I am putting Mike Purcell in at nose guard and sliding DJ Jones out. That's my 3-4.
It depends on.
But a base 3-4 1st and 10, how are you walking out there for the first snap?
Probably that way.
Yeah.
Yep. But let's say it's 2nd and 3 and you want to have heavy personnel out there to match what they have put out there.
Probably dropping 4 or 5 guys down in there. And Matt Henningsen might be one of them, not Jonathan Harris. And you're hoping that, Owazirike can step up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So to me, again, Jonathan Harris is a concerning one to me. From what I've heard from Henningsen, this is kind of an interesting one, Scott, talking about Henningsen here. They view him as a pass rush nose tackle, which is such a niche position. But, you talk about on that, if you're looking for somebody to get penetration, talking about those gaping holes for sword swallowing there. If you're looking for somebody to, blow up that singular A gap and then get into the backfield, I think Henningsen is the type of guy that could do that for them. But again, just looking at this roster, you still have a spot for a defensive tackle that can be a little bit positional in terms of 1 technique, 3 technique, 4-eye across this defense. Otherwise, you're sitting there being like, if Owazirike doesn't step up, we do not have the depth rotation and the horses up front on the defensive line to keep up with teams that want to be physical with us up front.
I want to hit on Keith came in with some stars again real quick. So thank you, Keith, for supporting the show. He says, I keep hearing you say if Cushenberry plays well, then he'll be gone. Why couldn't the Broncos resign him? And I agree with Keith on this. That certainly would be a risk I'd like to find out.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have the ability or, to run into the problem. That's what I'm trying to say. The good problems to have. I would love to run into the good problems that Lloyd Cushenberry played so well that we might have trouble keeping him next year. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
But I agree with Keith. I think you find the money to sign him. He's young. He's drafted a Bronco. You've stuck by him when he hasn't played all that well. There should be some freaking loyalty there. I tell you that.
Yeah.
That you find a spot. You found your center. He played that well. It is a problem I hope the Denver Broncos have at the end of this year, Keith.
Would be ideal. I will say based on the play to date, that seems unlikely, but things change. So hopefully good things happen there for the Broncos offensive line and for Lloyd Cushenberry, because by all accounts, he seems like a great guy. It's just the play on the field has been rough, and we're not here to, just cheer for good guys. We're here to cheer for the the Broncos to field a good team out there, and he's been an issue. So bringing it back to the defense, again, I think overall this defense is fine. We have questions long-term about boundary cornerback. I like Damari Mathis. I like Riley Moss out there. We'll see what those guys look like this season. We have long-term questions at edge. But for the immediacy of this roster, I think you need another defensive lineman, defensive tackle. I totally agree with you, Scott, that Purcell, Jones, and Zach Allen could be your fine 3-4 base, but with Zach Allen, he's kind of an inside-outside piece that you want anyway. Maybe you want even to go heavier there on some fronts where you have then, let's say, again, I'm going to use Shelby Harris the example. Shelby Harris, Purcell, DJ Jones. Now, there's some meat up front if you're really trying to stop a team in 22 personnel on the other side. So, again, right now, this team on the roster does not have the quality interior defensive line depth that I think can get through the season. And if you have one injury on this front right now, obviously, don't even breathe the injury about the guy wearing number 2 on the back end. But let's say DJ Jones misses 6 weeks, defense is cooked. I don't even know how you could field a defense out there with the bodies that they have on this roster right now along the interior defensive line.
And Keith says, based on the play to date, the whole team didn't look like they should have come back based on last year, not just Cushenberry. The difference is I've never seen Cushenberry play well. I never saw Dalton Reisner play well. I'm 2 years into this, and those guys I've never seen play well. I don't know that they've got it in them. And I guess Reisner had a decent first year, but I've never seen it. So I don't know that it's in him. We know Russell Wilson can play quarterback. We're not sure if he can still play quarterback, but we know he can. We know what Cortland Sutton can do. We know what Jerry Jeudy can do. We know that these guys have shown us to be good football players. I've never seen Lloyd Cushenberry play well, ever. So that doesn't mean he can't. Again, we've got you don't know, I live in Atlanta. I watch the Falcons a lot. The leap you hope to see is the same one Caleb McGarry made. From year 3 to year 4, Caleb McGarry was pretty poor.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a fantastic 4th year. Just really, really good. Oh, he fits in this scheme, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. If he's yours, he fits in your scheme. If Lloyd Cushenberry is really good, that's all you care about. So we'll see.
Yep. And he's got a chance. Golden runaway. I mean, Broncos looked to replace him, obviously.
Gonna get another opportunity, it looks like, Nick.
Yep. So at this point, we're at the no excuses point of this season. I think Sean Payton trying to do that for the quarterback, but we're also there with Lloyd Cushenberry as well. And right now, he is the biggest question mark on the offensive line entering next season. Obviously, there are other questions. Is Mike McGlinchey going to live up to that contract? Can Quinn Miners take a step forward? Garrett Bowles, is this his last season in Denver? So these are all offensive line's got a lot of questions. But bringing it on home, Ben Bunce coming in saying DJ Jones' versatility is great bang for a buck last season, $10 million, second best value signing the Broncos had last year, only outpaced by Quan Williams, who they paid almost
it was K1
nothing
there too.
For. Yeah,
the 2 49ers you brought in were really, really good last year, and that was basically a straight swap on salary too. So he was a 1-for-1, like-for-like replacement, and I think you upgraded. I think DJ Jones played better for you last year than Shelby Harris did the year before.
Yep. So it'll be interesting. But do you agree with my point about the interior defensive line? I feel like you're not as worried about them as I am, other than Jonathan Harris listed as the starter.
It's not as worried. It's just, what are you going to do? When I look at there and I see Jonathan Harris and you're too deep, that's scary. You absolutely should be worried about it. It is. You had it covered, so I didn't go in, but yeah, that is a worry. I like the front 3, but after that, Henningsen is okay. Arizarike wasn't very good last year. There's a big concern on the defensive line. I think we've kind of glossed over that, and we shouldn't have. We shouldn't have.
Yeah, we've also talked about it a lot. Like, we were mocking defensive tackles to the Broncos a good bit in the draft, so it's definitely one that we're worried about. But out there, who's still out there? I mean, you got Shelby Harris, Michael Brockers, Chris Wormley, Lionel Joseph, more of a nose tackle. Justin Ellis, also more of a nose tackle. Carl Davis has been out there for a number of years. Mike Pinnell, but to go with Mike Purcell, that might be fun. But there's not too many options.
We saw Mike Pinnell in Atlanta. No.
Not great. Not great. But there's not too many options out there. It's just, I'm curious if the Broncos are slow playing it a bit to see who becomes available post cuts, and to see who could be somebody out there. Maybe give yourself a runway for Wazirike to take a step forward. But we will see. Also, there's a Matt Ioannidis, I believe, as well. I think he's big enough to play that to kind of 3-4 defensive end as well, from Temple as well. Looking up his size. God, how hard is it to find weight when I look up somebody? Give me the 10,000 of the contracts. But yeah, 308 pounds. That's somebody that I think could also be an option out there as well. Puna Ford, I think, is still available. So there's some defensive tackles still out there that I would feel significantly better than Jonathan Harris on this roster.
There's Dan Saleo says, I can't believe Philly got Carter in the draft. That he's going to be the best defensive tackle in the draft. Boomer bust on this kid. That's, there's a lot of Georgia fans rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles these days because they've just taken the whole Georgia defense. Boomer bust on this. It was a risky pick, but a risk worth taking for my money.
Yeah. I think the Eagles are in a great spot for him. So it'll be fun to watch him out there and the rich get richer. We got Albert and Michelle coming in saying, Albert and Michelle Knoppers coming in saying, great reported as always, guys. Keep up the great work. Thumbs up. I'm going to assume this is from Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Hope you're doing well. No, Albert, thanks for coming in on a different comment there. But yeah, no, just again, final thoughts. The defensive line, there's still odd bodies out there. Are they difference makers? No, they're not big time difference makers, but somebody who should at least, it's kind of like the running back conversation. Come in and play a few snaps and bring some cushion, bring some depth to position that should help them out there. So defense, I hope they're not done yet because the interior defensive line still scares me just because the depth and the quality there.
So I wanted to read this to you, but I'm going to give it away here. As far as the draft goes, I went and looked up Lloyd Cushenberry's pre-draft notes. I'll just hit the strengths. Strengths, powerful with good core strength and outrageously long arms, usually first to frame the run game. Possesses core power to stalemate based on blocks. Sets up in pass protection. Weaknesses, limited range as a run blocker. May need to play in smaller spaces for max effectiveness. Basically, they're describing what we saw with Quinn Miners. The strengths of him coming out were listed as power, strength, and the weaknesses was range. That's a miss, y'all.
Yeah.
That's a miss all around as far as what he has become on the next level. Because, people say he needs to get in the weight room. I guarantee you this guy's in the weight room. He can probably squat a house and bench press a Ford. But again, effectively use it, like Ben's saying, and playing with leverage is something a little different. So Diamond Rattler helping to close us off here. Appreciate you. And Michael Ranquillo as well. So thank you for the stars, Diamond Rattler. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. And Michael, it's always great to see you every day. So thank you, sir, for coming in with those stars.
And Diamond also asked, Nick, what's your favorite hiking boot? I use the Loa Renegade, but I'm out here in the Pacific Northwest, and I like a little bit of a more substantial boot that's a little bit more waterproof because I'm mucking around in, ankle deep streams fording pretty often. So if you're out there in somewhere drier like Colorado or something, I probably would recommend a trail runner, actually a little bit lighter, going to protect your knees a little bit, keep you from fatiguing. But I like a little bit more, again, more of a substantial boot in my Loa Renegade. So I get that typically this is my second pair of Loa Renegades. I got one, took me 3 years to kill that first pair, and I got them on Memorial Day sale. So make sure you're checking them out. That's my favorite boot personally. Zach Powers, give me free stuff.
Great show, guys. Thanks for making me scared about the DL. Well, I actually like the linebacker depth, and you don't need the same talent on the defensive line if your linebackers are good. Your job in the front is just to keep those guys clean and let them run and flow to the ball. Hold your ground. I don't need 10 sacks from my 3-4 ends. Do your job, blue collar, and let your linebackers flow. And you've got some athletes at linebacker now, Drew Sanders, and if Jonas Griffith comes back, and then you've got some blue collar guys in Alex Singleton and Josie Jewell that the linebackers should eat for sure.
You'd hope so. But yeah, no, not to scare you about defensive line too much, but just looking at the roster, that's the light
froze up
on that side. You're looking at your car's engine dashboard. Oh, the car's dashboard, and what's blinking right now, defensive line light is running low on that one. So having another body there might be helpful. But guys, we're going to start to wrap it on up here. Thanks everybody for joining us today. It will be a little bit shorter here on these shows going forward here until we start to get back into the meat of the content and the season coming up, and only a few more Monday shows left. But first, we got Gary Palmer coming in saying $9.99. Thank you so much, Gary, and Colin asking the hitting questions as well. Scott, what's your favorite hiking boot?
I do trails, so I'm basically in like running shoes.
Yep,
so
trail runners.
I drew. It's basically cross country for me. I don't do a ton of like mountain hiking. I do a lot of trail walking through the woods and national forests and stuff.
Yep. Out there where Cocaine Bear was at, right? That's out there in Georgia.
Yeah. So if it's raining, I don't want to be out there.
You don't have a lot of choice when you're day 3 of 5 in the backcountry. But appreciate everybody coming in here. We got a shout out for oboes as well. Yep, some Australian shoes coming through. But Appreciate everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Thanks for joining us on this fine Tuesday morning. That's Scott Kennedy. Make sure you're following him on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. I'm on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at BFB_pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. If you're listening after the fact, I know a lot of you do. We're here in the morning shows, or not everybody can do that. You're working right now, taking the kids to school, whatever. But you're listening after the fact. Find us on Spotify or iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It really does help us a lot. There's a lot of great Broncos content producers out there, NFL content producers, but I like to think we are more engaged with the community and you guys than anybody else. And we want to not leave out the people who are listening after the fact. Obviously, we love it if you can join us live, but we know there are people who can't do that with their time and schedule. So find us on there, leave us a 5-star rating and review. That does help a lot. And as the ticker says underneath here, please subscribe, like, and share. Hit that bell icon so that way you know when we go live. And I'll see you guys again tonight with Carl on Building the Broncos. And shout out again, Gary, $9.99. God bless you, man. Thank you so much for supporting the show. It's we wouldn't be doing the show. Nobody's obligated to make a super chat or a super super chat donation, anything like that. But when you do, it helps us keep coming back, make sure that we can keep doing these shows.
Yeah, it does. And thank you, Gary. I'm happy for you that you won the giveaway last month, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you again at the meet and greet. So Thursday night is the schedule release. I would say on Sunday they will probably announce when they're going to do the meet and greet then, because that'll come out live. And then on Sunday, and Nick wants to do October, so we may do October just for Nick and Deanna Hendry, of course. So
yeah,
so if we move to October, Nick, your ass better be there.
Heck, I only have one obligation in October right now, so that's good. But yeah, guys, we appreciate you. Make sure you continue to choose kindness and compassion. Have a great rest of your day. Go Broncos.